Hey, what's up guys? Devin here with Backcountry Exposure. I am out here today to continue the video series of how to backpack. Now we're going to talk about shelters today, and specifically I've got 3 different styles of shelters. We're going to get into nice in-depth detail on them, but there's 2 other main type of ultralight style shelters that you'll find out on the market if you are researching different ways to either save weight or ways to just be out on the trail to sleep at night. Now those 2 ultralight options are going to be a bivy and a tarp poncho, or a poncho tarp. Now the reason that I don't have those here is because they are not styles of shelters that I personally prefer to use, because bivvies are super claustrophobic for me. It is a waterproof outside liner for your sleeping pad and your sleeping bag, and you sleep right on the ground, and if it rains you're protected from the elements, but you typically have something over top of your face, and it's not the most comfortable sleeping scenario for me. Where a tarp poncho is a little bit more like a standard tarp, but it is basically a oversized rain poncho that you are able to set up with a single trekking pole or a trekking pole and just tie really close to the ground so that you've got some kind of really minimal type of rain shelter. Now let's go ahead and talk about the 3 different styles. Even though I've got 4 tents and tarps and a hammock out here today, let's talk about the 3. The first is going to be a standard tarp. Now this is a really good option if you're looking to save some weight, but to be able to have good versatility in what you are trying to accomplish out on the trail. If you need to set up really fast and you are a thru hiker type person, then a tarp is a really good way to go. Now tarps can be a little finicky depending on what type of terrain you're in, but this is a great lightweight shelter that is going to protect you from a lot of the weather scenarios that you would find yourself in. You typically do have both ends of the tarp open, so if you've got a cross breeze coming through, that's something to think about when it comes to choosing a shelter style like this. But it's a great way to still be protected from the elements, but not feel like you are totally open to the elements if you've got a chance of rain or some weather, even snow that night. Tarps are typically going to be set up in various configurations. You've got different styles of tarps. You've got a catenary cut or a cat cut style tarp that you see here with this rab ceiling, or you've got a flat tarp like you see here over the hammock. Different uses, different purposes and styles of use, but usually a cat cut is going to allow you to get a little bit tighter pitches, and you can set it up in different configurations as well. So I've got an A-frame style pitch going on right now using trekking poles. I could drop one of these ends low to the ground, and that would give me a little bit more protection, and I would still have the waterproofness that I would need from a shelter like this. Nice thing about this as well is if I need to get 2 people under a tarp like this, I can, and it's another great way to save a lot of weight. Now let's go ahead and move on to these 2 options right here. So basically what I've got here is 2 different styles of tents. You've got a non-freestanding tent and you've got a freestanding tent. Freestanding meaning that when I put the poles into the tent, it does not have to be staked down in order to stand up. Where a non-freestanding does require it to be staked to pitch properly. The benefits of one or the other tend to be based on personal preference. If you are looking, again, to save some weight, then a non-freestanding tent is a really good way to go. This is the Sierra Designs Flashlight 1. So this is a 1-person tent. This is a kind of a hybrid double wall, single wall tent. I have a full review on this tent, and I would say go look at it because this tent is really, really cool. But there are tons of options in non-freestanding tents available. Usually they're going to be from kind of your cottage companies, or they're going to be non-freestanding tents that are available specifically to be pitched with trekking poles. Great way to get into a lighter option, but if you really like a tent, then non-freestanding is a way to save some weight, have a little bit less comfort, meaning that you don't have as much space in the tent or headroom, but this is a great option. Let's walk over here and just talk about the most common type of tent that you're going to see when you are first starting out backpacking. When I get online and I look at what different brands have available to purchase, I see more tents of this style than I do of anything else available on the market. This is obviously a tried and true system and design that has worked for a lot of years, and it just makes sense for backpacking. Now, this is a marmot tent, but you could go as simple as the REI Passage 2. What you've got is essentially a 3-season tent that goes all the way down to the ground on the rainfly. You've got double doors on both sides. Sometimes you've got a tent like my Paria Outdoor Products Bryce 2-person tent that has just a single door on the front. Like I said, tents, lots of options. This is typically going to be a cheaper route for you to go. Non-freestanding tents get a little bit more expensive. Tarps can range anywhere from this tarp back here, the Sanctuary Sill Tarp from Paria Outdoor Products, at $80. This was $120 to as much as $250 I've seen for a tarp. So you can get really expensive, but all of this depends on what you want your personal system to be. Now let's jump back here and let's talk about this type of shelter, which is a hammock. And I've got a Wildhorn Outfitters Outpost 1 under here, and I've got the Sanctuary Sill Tarp from Paria Outdoor Products as the rainfly, which the nice thing about a tarp is if you want to go really minimalist and just use a ground sheet and a tarp as a shelter, you've got that option over here like the Rab Sill Wing, but you can make it more versatile and put a hammock underneath it, and you've got a totally different type of shelter system. Hammocks are becoming way more popular in the outdoor world, and it's a bandwagon that I have not fully gotten converted to, but this is a really fun thing for me to start working on more for my system. Now, something to keep in mind for hammocks are they do tend to require a little bit more mindfulness in how it's set up and what your system is like. The reason being is you've got a lot of different elements that are part of making this work properly and to make your experience a lot better. Now, what I mean by that is you've got your tarp to cover, you've got your hammock. Typically the hammock is going to require a bug net, and then you need some kind of underquilt or a pad, but typically an underquilt is going to be more comfortable, and then a top quilt or a sleeping bag to lay over top of you. And if you need a pillow, then you can put a pillow there as well. But that's a lot of different elements, and that is something about camping in a hammock and using a hammock as a shelter that I have not fully got on board with. So guys, that is a very brief rundown of different types of shelters that are available. Basically, my point in what I want to get across to you is there are different options for you to choose from. And if you are brand new to backpacking, this may be the route to go of just a standard style half dome tent or a freestanding tent, in the sense that this is going to be a cheaper option, probably going to make you feel a lot better about being out in the elements if you are in a rainstorm or you want to be away from the bugs, versus a tarp, which is also going to be a less expensive option but has a little bit more vulnerability to the elements and such of being outside. So obviously you've got a lot to choose from, but make a decision, decide what type of shelter you want to use for your backpacking system. It doesn't matter which way you go. If you go even with a bivvy, awesome. If that's what you want to use, good on you for doing that, because I personally don't like a bivvy, but I may go with something like this or like this, a non-freestanding tent, or here in the future trying to move towards a hammock and get on the hammock bandwagon. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Please look down in the description for links to these different products to where you can purchase them on Amazon. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. I really appreciate you guys watching. Hope you have an awesome day.